Karen Daniels, also known as Michelle, is one of the most important supporting characters who undoubtedly stayed long in the memory of Niko Bellic. Niko met Michelle through Mallory, Roman's girl, pretty much at the very beginning of his time in Liberty City. Despite that Michelle was very nosy from the very beginning and behaved quite strangely at times, Niko still fell in love with her. The Serb started to like her very quickly, and the feeling was mutual. Michelle was infatuated with Niko, which certainly made the tasks she received from her agency quite difficult. A good confirmation of these words is the end of the mission, The Snowstorm, where it's clear that at some point it was really hard for Michelle to get her job done. The sympathy of these characters towards each other unfortunately also hurt Niko himself. It's not even that Niko was hurt when he found out that the woman had betrayed him. The point is that, out of sympathy, Niko did not notice the clues that clearly showed that Michelle wanted to get something important from him. That was the whole point behind dating Niko Bellic. It can be said that the mission, Three's a Crowd, was the starting point of a whole set of suspicious signals from Michelle, which, given Niko's intelligence, he should have caught. Particularly, there's one line of dialogue in this mission that immediately catches the attention.
Hey, I'd like to see you again, Niko. You look like that kind of guy I want to get to know.
Yes, you're right. This statement is not very obvious, and many people would say that hardly anyone would be able to see the hidden meaning. That's how it is probably, but it must be admitted that this sentence takes on a completely different meaning after Niko finds out who Michelle is. This sentence did not mean that Niko was, in her opinion, the perfect candidate for a relationship partner. Rather, she meant that he was the right person who could make things easier for the agency Michelle works for. Another very suspicious thing is that Michelle will defend Niko from a pedestrian attacking him before he even picks up both women. This is very strange because Mallory will not react at all, although the woman has known Niko longer, and Michelle had not even met Niko then. What's more, when Niko himself attacks pedestrians or even hits Mallory, Michelle doesn't give a damn about it. This indicates that Niko is really important to Michelle for some reason, and generally speaking, what's happening on the screen is just very suspicious. Equally weird things also happen on dates with Michelle. Apart from the fact that the text mentioned earlier appears again during one of the phone calls, there are also several insightful questions from Michelle when Niko decides to save Roman just before the date. It's normal for Michelle to be very worried about Niko, but the way she asks if Niko hangs out with bad people is once again highly suspicious.
So, Niko, why couldn't you come on the date earlier? What happened?
Roman got himself into some trouble. I had to help him out.
Really?
Furthermore, the woman also asks about Roman and his potential involvement in the criminal underworld of Liberty City. There's something wrong here, and these situations can easily make the protagonist of GTA 4 feel as if he was being interrogated at the police station. Although Niko answers this question in a not straightforward way, it doesn't change the fact that it's because he doesn't want to make a bad impression.
I'm just trying to make the right decisions.
Another example is when Michelle asks Niko about what he does. Bellic again avoids answering this question. And here it gets more interesting, because when Niko plays the reverse Uno card and asks Michelle the same question, he also receives a weak answer. Still, after some time, eventually Michelle decides to answer this question, pointing out that she works with Mallory allegedly, which is a nasty lie, according to one of the phone calls.
How's Mallory? We haven't spoken in a while.
So the women work together all the time, but they didn't talk with one another for a while? Michelle is literally exposing herself at this point. Moving on, after providing the short answer about what she does, Michelle immediately puts pressure on Niko again to tell her what he does. The woman doesn't want to say anything about herself, but at the same time expects Niko to be like an open book.
If you're home, come here.
Roman's bullshit stories, maybe. I just felt like I needed a new start.
There's nothing else about Liberty City then? Just Roman?
Maybe there is more to this place. I'm not sure yet.
It also gets interesting when Niko destroys Michelle's car on the way back. A nervous Michelle then replies as if she knew something more about Niko and that he works in the criminal underworld and he hangs out with criminals from Hove Beach, where Niko had never mentioned anything to her before.
I'm sorry about the car, Michelle. I can get you a new one.
Do you mean you'd steal one? Have you got caught up with the Hove Beach criminals, Niko?
Forget about it. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Niko had not given any thought to where Michelle might have obtained such information about him. Surely not from Mallory, who's never been told the truth by Roman. Mallory didn't even know what Roman was doing, let alone Niko. Even if she knew, she would rather not tell everyone around, because she wouldn't want to cause any bad things to her loved ones. Going further, during the date, we also see that Michelle drives a silver Merit, which, by the way, is a civilian version of the LCPD police car. Next up, when Niko decides to take Michelle to the cabaret in Perestroika after the performances, instead of talking about how she spent her time there and whether she liked it, she prefers to switch back to her agent mode and tells her feelings about the people who were there and that they're probably criminals.
Strange crowd. They all belong to jail. I've never been there before, but I think some of the guys in there might have been gangsters.
Huh, I really don't know about that sort of thing, Michelle.
For instance, when Niko goes with Michelle for a drink at an Irish pub, it turns out that the woman will talk about this place again in the context of the fact that criminals may come to it. Another thing is that when Niko will sit behind the wheel after drinking and encounter the police on the way, they will not react, which is already super suspicious considering that in other cases, the police immediately react to drunk Niko driving the car. Moreover, it turns out that Michelle did not consume alcohol, probably wanting to stay sober and paying attention to what Niko says when under the influence. And what's important to note is that after what Niko says, it's possible that in addition to alcohol, the man was unknowingly consuming something else, which Michelle, of course, may have secretly added to the drink to get even more information. Even while having sex with Niko, you can notice weird lines of dialogue from Michelle.
You're special. Tell me interesting things.
The woman talks about getting Niko to tell her more interesting things, which in this case sounds downright comical. It's not even clear what the woman could be talking about if the player hadn't noticed all these other clues earlier. However, after the intoxicating moments spent with Michelle, Niko sometimes unusually sums up a successful date.
That girl's a good listener.
The sentence you heard probably speaks for itself. Niko notices Michelle's strange behavior, but strongly dismisses it, not believing that something big and worrying might be behind all this.
Okay, no problem. How about the kiss?
Anything for my country.
Moving on, Niko could find a whole lot of suspicious things in Michelle's apartment. The first aspect is the furniture, which even Niko himself immediately pays attention to. The furniture is fresh, and in addition, some of them still have price tags attached. But the main character of the game, and we as players, guess that Michelle may have recently moved here. But if all the previous clues were taken into account by the player and Niko, then this point would immediately become much more suspicious. After all, why did the woman move to a place directly adjacent to one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Liberty City? Well, another thought-provoking issue, that is, Michelle's place, was de facto ignored and justified in Niko's head, probably by the low price due to the location and the woman's workplace. Apart from the furniture, what also catches the eye in Michelle's apartment is a certain photo. Well, in the photo you can see a woman posing with 3 unknown men. Unfortunately, it's probably impossible to identify them in any way, but there is a high chance that this may be another clue. If you have any ideas, please write them in the comments below. Moving on, it's worth mentioning a few words about the luck of the Irish mission for Elisabetta Torres. Well, Michelle finds out suspiciously quickly about Niko's new friends because she calls him immediately after this task. The woman is worried that Niko is dealing with Elisabetta Torres, who deals in drugs. Again, the latest news from Niko's life reaches Michelle surprisingly too fast. It feels like Niko is under constant surveillance.
Hey, Niko. Mallory tells me you are working with Elisabetta Torres now.
Do you two know each other? Elisabetta seems to have a lot of friends.
That's because she's a dealer, Niko. Junkies like the people who supply them with drugs. You aren't getting involved in that world, are you?
I'm trying to avoid it, Michelle. Maybe I do a few errands for Elisabetta. Nothing serious, though. I am no dealer.
If you need help with anything, Niko, just speak to me. If you want to get something off your chest, I'm a good listener, you know?
The next interesting conversation can be found after we start completing the missions for Vladimir Glebov. Well, on one of the dates, Michelle will raise the subject of Vlad, where the woman will ask Niko if Vlad does not belong to the Russian mafia. The situation once again shows how well Michelle is informed and how desperately she wants to get some information from Niko yet again.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure,
What do you know about that guy Vlad?
nothing. He's a friend of Roman's.
Really?
I met him. He seemed angry. How you say, aggressive to hide inadequacy? I never see him again. Why?
Mallory mentioned him, that's all.
Okay.
Do you think he's in the Russian mafia? He sounded like a crook.
I really have no idea.
Okay.
Unfortunately, sooner or later, the truth about Michelle had to come out, which can be witnessed in the mission, The Snowstorm. Niko decides to help little Jacob recover stolen cocaine for Elisabetta, which takes place in the ruins of an abandoned hospital. When Niko gets back the merchandise, he goes to the agreed place. However, an unpleasant surprise awaits him there. It's also worth mentioning that in GTA 4, there are several unused phone calls that Niko was supposed to receive from Michelle. They were potentially cut because they hinted too much to the player that Michelle would betray Niko. Let's listen to the first one.
Niko, a friend of mine saw you coming out of Perestroika the other day. You haven't been taking another girl there, have you?
I never took you for the jealous type, Michelle. I was just there on business. Do not worry.
Business? Isn't it owned by some Russian gangster?
I would not know. Just making a delivery. Well, see you soon, Michelle. Don't get so paranoid, yeah?
Yeah, Michelle makes herself known again, mentioning that she heard rumors that Niko recently appeared in Perestroika, which is owned by Mikhail Faustin. On the other hand, Niko was supposed to get another phone call soon after the Roman Sorrow mission, where the Bellic cousins are forced to move to Bohan.
Niko, I am so sorry to hear about those fires. Roman's 2 places burning down at once. Was it arson? Is Roman caught up with some gangsters or something?
Freak coincidence, Michelle. This is only explanation for it. It's a real tragedy.
If you guys need anything, just ask. If you guys got caught up with some bad people, you'd tell me, right? Don't let anyone bully you because you're an immigrant.
Nobody will bully me, Michelle. Do not worry.
As you may have heard, Michelle mentions Roman's criminal connections again while notoriously asking Niko about details. Yet another clue found in GTA 4 is undoubtedly the internet. The thing is, when the player will go to the love meeting dating website, he'll find a certain girl named Undercover Lover. The woman's face is censored, as well as where she's coming from. Besides, the whole text regarding what the woman does not like clearly shows who she is. But what's most interesting is that for some time, the woman has been in the witness protection program, which may indicate that she's dealing with government agencies. Interestingly, if Niko Bellic tries to make an appointment with her, he will get rejected, and not directly from her, but he'll get an email from FIB Services. Given the suggestive name of the profile and Michelle's profession as a secret agent, it can be easily deduced that this is Michelle's profile. Last but not least, it's worth adding a small curiosity about Michelle, which can be found in the Vane magazine in GTA 4. Namely, on the cover of one of the magazine's copies, you can see an uncensored photo of a woman nicknamed Undercover Lover from the Love Meet dating website. Since it was established already that this woman is Michelle, it can be therefore assumed that this is how she was originally intended to look in the beta version of the game. All these things discussed in today's episode make it clear that Niko may have noticed that there's something wrong with Michelle. The only question is what Niko could do. Even if Niko had gone so far as to kill the woman, it wouldn't have helped the case, considering that the government agency would not have allowed him to live. The only thing Niko could do was not get involved in this relationship and see what would eventually come of it. Of course, the best way would be to abandon criminal activities. However, it turned out completely different. Not only that, it all worked out for Niko in the end. Yes, he had to do some errands for a government agency, but the connections with United Liberty Paper allowed him to face the person responsible for the event that destroyed the life of the main character of the game. To continue the topic of other interesting events from the GTA series, be sure to check out the video about the mysterious disappearance of Donald Love. In the meantime, thanks for watching, take care, and see you soon.